can Darth Vader survive without his suit? After Vader was burnt on Mustafar, he suffered through multiple injuries that not only included his lost limbs, but also his eyes, eardrums, and even his lungs. This would then force Vader to enter a life support suit that was required for his survival. However, say he didn't have his suit, or even his mask on, could he actually survive? Well, thankfully, we actually have an answer to this, so without further ado, let's get right into it. Vader's life support suit had multiple key components that were crucial for his survival. Every part of his suit would basically work together in order to keep him alive, but one of the most important ones was his mask. Because Vader had damaged lungs, his mask had an air pump that basically connected to a filtration system in the back of his suit. This would then allow him the ability to breathe. So by looking at that, you would think he'd technically die without it, right? Well, actually no. We've seen him without his mask before, such as when he was defeated on Mustafar, his fight against Ahsoka, against Kenobi, and even a few times in the comics. But crazy enough, all these moments shared one common thing: his anger and his hatred in the dark side. Now I know it sounds like an extremely broad reason to why this could allow him to survive, so let me break it down for you. Both the light side and the dark side each had abilities that they would specialize in. A Jedi, for example, could use their light side focus in order to heal injuries, but a dark side user couldn't do that, unless they were fully devoted to the dark side, but still that was an extremely difficult thing for them to do. However, it goes both ways. A dark side user could rely on their hatred and survive lightsaber stabs or even intense injuries. What might kill a Jedi wouldn't kill a dark side user, if that makes sense. Let's take Maul for example. After Maul lost to Obi-Wan on Naboo, the next we see him was in the Clone Wars, and the only thing he spoke about was his hatred for Obi-Wan and how much he wanted revenge. Maul spent every waking moment for years obsessing over him, and because of his anger constantly enraging him, it's why he was able to survive being cut in half. If he didn't have that same dark side focus, well, he wouldn't have survived that. So going back to Vader, when he was originally burnt on Mustafar, that wasn't something that anybody could just survive. In the Legends novel, The Rise and Fall of Darth Vader, we learned that his hatred for Obi-Wan is what gave him the will to keep going, and to keep pushing to survive. He had no life support system, he had no suit, all he had was his consumption in the dark side. Regardless of his damaged lungs or his cut off limbs, nothing mattered to him, because all he could think about was Obi-Wan. I don't know about you, but it seems like a common trend for Sith Lords to be obsessed with Obi-Wan, doesn't it? But anyways, this wasn't the only case. We've also seen Vader survive without his mask in the comics. One in which a stormtrooper saw his face, and well, Vader snapped his neck the moment he laid eyes on him. But that's not the point. The reason why Vader survived something like this was because he hated if people saw him without his mask. He felt as if it humanized him, and he wanted people to think he was basically a machine. When the Empire rose to power, there was even Imperial propaganda that went around that said he didn't eat or sleep. And well, the reason behind this is because he wanted people to be scared of him. So if there was that small chance that he would be without his mask, if he fully devoted himself to the dark side in that moment and he did not lose focus, well then technically he could survive. But that's the problem, devoting himself. That's the issue that Vader dealt with. In Legends, Vader actually tried to heal himself with the Force at one point. Although it was mainly a light side ability, as I said earlier, if a dark side user is so consumed, it can be done. It just takes a lot more concentration and energy compared to what a light side user would have to do. But there's only one slight catch with it. They would need to be fully devoted to the dark side the entire way if it were to work, or else it would fail. And while in Vader's case, he managed to heal his injuries, but when he looked down on them just to see them heal, he started to feel emotions of joy. He was so happy to finally see his injuries begin to heal, and while that corrupted the entire process and it failed, no matter how hard he tried, he would always still have that little bit of Anakin always left in him. This also ties into his death in Return of the Jedi. In the end, he finally let go, and he wasn't consumed by hatred or by anger in this moment, but instead he was Anakin Skywalker again. After Sidious used Force Lightning to damage his breathing apparatus, that wasn't something that Anakin could survive. Vader could, but Anakin couldn't. So although there's no exact time constraint of how long Vader could survive without his mask, if he fully devoted himself to it, well then he could actually survive without it. But the real question is, how much anger would he put into the Force? How much would he let it consume him without Anakin Skywalker interfering? That's up for debate of course, but that would ultimately decide how long he would survive. But what do you think? Do you like the idea that there is a chance Vader could live without his suit and his mask? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching and may the Force be with you, always.